The first time anyone noticed the dog, it was raining. Not a gentle drizzle, but the kind of cold, hard rain that turned sidewalks into shallow rivers and soaked through even the thickest coat. The dog stood motionless near the gates of the old train station in Ridgeway Town, his fur matted and heavy with water. People assumed he was lost. Maybe abandoned. But no one could get close. He'd bark and back away, his eyes scanning every face that passed by. As if he was searching for someone. That was 7 years ago. Since then, the town's residents had grown used to seeing him. Every morning, he'd sit at the same spot, near Platform 3, watching the trains roll in and out. He never boarded any, never followed anyone. Just waited. He came to be known as Rusty, after the red collar he wore, faded now, but still clinging to his neck like a memory refusing to fade. The people of Ridgeway admired his loyalty. Some fed him scraps, others left out blankets during winter, but no one ever tried to take him home. He belonged to someone already. Someone he was still waiting for. But nobody ever came. The story of Rusty became local legend. Children grew up hearing about the dog with a broken heart. Elderly passengers would pat his head and whisper prayers. Even the train conductors grew attached. They'd leave a bowl of water near the tracks, nodding at him like he was part of the station staff. And in many ways, he was. Still, no one knew who he belonged to. Until one rainy afternoon, nearly identical to the day Rusty first appeared, a woman in her late 30s stepped off the 3:15 train. She was soaked from the storm, her eyes scanning the station with the nervous energy of someone who hadn't been home in years. Her name was Emily Walsh, and she had grown up in Ridgeway but left abruptly in her early 20s under mysterious circumstances no one ever fully understood. Her return surprised everyone, especially the station staff who hadn't seen her in over a decade. Rusty noticed her instantly. He didn't bark. Didn't run. He simply stood. His ears perked, tail slightly wagging. For a moment, time seemed to freeze, Emily staring at the dog staring back, both caught in a strange silence that didn't belong to the crowd bustling around them. "Rusty," she whispered. But there was doubt in her voice. Confusion. Pain. The dog took a slow step forward, then stopped. Emily knelt to the ground, tears beginning to mix with the rain. "No, it can't be," the station manager, Mr. Harlan, an older man with a gentle heart and a fondness for both dogs and old stories, had been watching from behind the glass window. He stepped out, umbrella in hand. "You know this dog?" he asked softly. Emily nodded, barely. "I used to," she said. "But that was a long time ago." "He was my brother's," she didn't finish the sentence. At the mention of her brother, something shifted in the air, something cold, like a shadow drifting through the warmth of memory. Her brother, David, had vanished 7 years ago. No note. No body. Just gone. People whispered about suicide, others said he ran from something. Emily never believed either. She hadn't been back since. Now here she was, facing the one creature who might still carry a piece of him. A dog who hadn't given up. A dog who still waited. But why? And what was he waiting for? As the rain fell harder and people began to clear the platform, Emily stood slowly, her eyes locked with Rusty's. And then, as if some invisible switch had flipped, Rusty turned away. He walked, not toward the exit, not toward her, but toward the edge of the platform, pausing at a rusted service gate that had long been sealed shut. He pawed at it, once, then twice. Emily's heart pounded. Why there?" she whispered. Mr. Harlan's face grew pale. "That gate, it leads to the old maintenance tunnel. It's been closed for years. No one goes there anymore." Rusty scratched again. Then Saturday. Waiting. Emily's face drained of color. "That's where David used to go when he needed to be alone, when things got too heavy." She turned to Mr. Harlan, her voice barely a breath. "Please, open it." Emily stood silently as the rusted gate groaned open with a sharp, reluctant screech. Mr. Harlan had insisted she wait while he fetched the spare keys from the office, but she hadn't moved. She couldn't. Not while Rusty kept his eyes fixed on that forgotten tunnel entrance like a silent sentinel. The dog hadn't barked, hadn't whimpered. He simply waited, just as he had for 7 long years. The station's underground maintenance tunnel stretched into a thick, musty darkness. As the door creaked wider, the smell of damp concrete and iron filled Emily's lungs. She felt dizzy, overwhelmed not just by the scent but by the weight of everything unspoken. Mr. Harlan handed her a flashlight, his voice calm but serious. "I'll stay close. No one's been down here since the flood in 18. Most of it's collapsed, but if there's something, anything, we'll find it." Emily didn't answer. She pointed the flashlight forward and followed Rusty as he padded silently into the tunnel. The beam of light shook in her hand, flickering against the stone walls. 7 years ago, Emily and David Walsh had been inseparable. Raised by their grandfather after losing their parents young, the siblings clung to each other like lifelines. But where Emily was grounded, logical, and protective, David had always been sensitive, introspective, quiet. He struggled silently with depression, truth no one in town fully understood. He'd smile when people looked, laugh at the right times, but inside, something was breaking. Rusty had been David's emotional anchor. A gift from their grandfather, the dog had sensed David's moods in ways no human could. When David disappeared in late autumn, no one knew where to begin. There were no signs of a struggle, no final message, no digital trail. Just a missing young man, and a dog who refused to leave the train station. Emily blamed herself. She had moved out just months before, chasing a career in the city. She thought giving David space would help him grow up. Instead, it broke them both. Now, as her boots echoed through the tunnel and water dripped steadily from the ceiling, Emily tried to steady her breath. Her flashlight caught faded graffiti, old maintenance signs, and at one point, a collapsed locker with a nameplate, D. Walsh. She froze. "David worked here?" she asked quietly. Mr. Harlan stepped beside her. "He took a part-time job after school. Helped us with wiring, odd repairs. He liked the quiet down here. Said it was peaceful." She ran her fingers over the rusted nameplate. "I never knew." Rusty stopped again. This time in front of a thick, sealed utility door at the far end of the passage. He sat down and looked back at Emily. She pushed forward. The lock was busted, rusted shut from years of disuse. But Mr. Harlan managed to wedge it open with a crowbar. It took both of them, grunting and pushing. The room was small, dry, and filled with dusty boxes and broken tools. But it wasn't the room that stole Emily's breath. It was the corner. A makeshift bed. Blankets. A crate filled with old books. A water bowl. A stack of notebooks. Emily stared. "He was here, this whole time." Mr. Harlan shook his head. I didn't know." "No one did." Rusty walked in, circled the blanket, and lay down, his body curled in the exact spot as if it had always belonged to him. Emily stepped closer to the notebooks, her hands trembling. She opened the top one. David's handwriting. The first page read, "If you're reading this, then maybe you didn't forget me after all." Her heart collapsed into her chest. Every page that followed was a journal. Memories. Pain. Loneliness. Thoughts of running. Thoughts of hiding. Thoughts of ending it. But never once did he say goodbye. Rusty licked the blanket gently. Emily sank to her knees. "Why didn't you come back, David? Why didn't you tell me?" Her voice broke. "Mr. Harlan put a hand on her shoulder, silent. And then, suddenly, Rusty stood. Ears up. Body tense. He faced the dark passage again, and growled. Emily's tears stopped. "What is it, boy?" Mr. Harlan looked into the tunnel. "Someone's down here." Rusty's growl wasn't loud, but it was sharp, an alert home from years of waiting, watching, and protecting. Emily tensed, her body turning instinctively toward the dark tunnel behind them. Mr. Harlan raised his flashlight, his arm trembling slightly, the beam slicing through the air like a blade. "Who's there?" he called out. His voice echoed off the tunnel walls. No reply. But then, a shuffling. Not an animal. Footsteps. Heavy. Deliberate. Slow. Emily stepped back, shielding Rusty without realizing it. The moment reminded her of childhood, when David used to pull her behind him in crowded streets, always the protective big brother. But now, everything was reversed. A shadow flickered at the edge of the light. Mr. Harlan tightened his grip on the flashlight. "You need to identify yourself," he said firmly. "This is railway property." A figure emerged. A man, maybe late 30s, with a tangled beard, sunken eyes, and clothes too large for his thin frame. He walked with a limp, one hand clutching the side of the tunnel wall for balance. The flashlight hit his face, and Emily's breath caught. "Marcus," she said, her voice cracking. He stopped. Confused. Staring at her like someone seeing a ghost. "Emily," he rasped. You shouldn't be here." Marcus Holton. David's best friend. Practically family. He'd disappeared from Ridgeway just days after David. People said he moved up north. Others said he ran from guilt. But no one ever got the truth, and no one really asked. Emily took a step forward. "What the hell are you doing down here?" Marcus looked past her. At the room. At the blanket. The books. His eyes lingered on Rusty, who had stopped growling but remained alert. "I didn't know anyone still cared," Marcus muttered. Emily's hands balled into fists. "Don't play dumb with me. You were with David the night he disappeared. He told me you two were going to talk, that he was finally ready to open up. Then you both vanished." Marcus looked like he wanted to run, but his limp betrayed him. He sat slowly against the tunnel wall, exhaling like a man who'd held something in too long. "I didn't vanish," he said. "I stayed close. I just stayed hidden." Mr. Harlan remained silent, watching. Emily stepped closer. "Hidden from what?" Marcus didn't answer right away. His eyes flicked to the journal in her hands. "You read it?" She nodded. "Then you know," he said. "David was breaking. And I couldn't fix him. None of us could. But that night, he asked me to meet him at the tunnel. Said he was ready to get help." Emily's heart pounded. "So what happened?" Marcus looked down. "We argued. He thought I betrayed him, told someone about his depression. I didn't, but I should have. I should have gotten help behind his back. I thought he hated me." He swallowed hard. "He ran. I chased him. It was raining. We slipped. He fell hard near the far end of the tunnel. Hit his head. I tried to drag him out. But he screamed. Said he didn't want to go back. That I should leave." Emily's voice shook. "And you just listened?" Marcus shook his head, eyes glistening. "I stayed nearby. Camped in the outer tunnels. Came back to bring him food. He wouldn't take it from me, but Rusty would. So I left things with the dog. Watched from a distance. I waited every day for him to come out." Emily stared in disbelief. "So he was alive?" Marcus nodded. "For a while. I don't know how long. Months, maybe. Then one day, Rusty came alone. Sat outside the gate. Didn't leave. I tried to check, but the room was empty. No body. No blood. Just gone." Emily sank to the floor beside Rusty. Her mind spun. David had survived, at least for a while, but still chose isolation over everything else. And Marcus had been living with the guilt in the shadows of that choice. Mr. Harlan finally spoke. "We need to report this." Marcus nodded slowly. "I know." But just then, Rusty's head snapped back toward the tunnel. He stood again. Another sound, this time from a different direction. A voice. Hello? Female. Faint. Echoing through the walls. Emily stood. Eyes wide. That sounded like Mom. The tunnel was shaking now. Dust fell from the metal beams above as sirens screamed and red lights pulsed like a racing heartbeat. Emily sprinted through the dim corridor, the data drive burning in her pocket like a live wire. David's final words still rang in her ears, "They'll erase it all, again." Marcus was just ahead, flashlight bouncing wildly with each step. Mr. Harlan lagged behind, coughing heavily. Emily paused, reached back, and grabbed his arm. "Come on. We're not leaving you," she yelled. Rusty barked once, sharply, from the front, like he knew which way to go. He darted around a corner, then stopped, looking back to make sure they were still following. "Smartest dog I've ever met," Marcus muttered between breaths. "Loyal," Harlan added. "Even after all these years." The group emerged into a circular room. Thick glass walls lined the perimeter, behind which were strange, capsule-like chairs, each with restraints and cables. Dozens of them. Some empty. Others still occupied. Emily's stomach turned. In one chair sat a woman, unmoving. Another showed a man, eyes open but blank. Lights blinked above their heads, indicating active sessions. Marcus approached a terminal and began typing. "These are the memory sequence chairs, this is where they rewrote David." Over and over again. Emily pressed a hand to the glass. "And our mom? Was she in one of these?" Marcus hesitated. "It's possible. They kept many. He was the one who decided David's mind was a unique case." Dr. Kellner continued, his voice now echoing through the room. "You were a controlled variable. Your grief made you predictable. But now you've become a threat." Suddenly, doors slammed shut. The room sealed itself in. A loud hiss followed, gas started seeping from vents near the floor. "Move!" Marcus shouted, smashing the emergency override on the door panel. Emily helped drag Harlan to the opposite side, slamming her fist into the control panel. No response. Rusty barked, then jumped onto a side bench, pawing frantically at a vent cover. With a screech, it popped loose. "Go!" Emily ordered. Marcus climbed in first, pulling Harlan behind. Emily pushed Rusty through, then scrambled in herself just as the gas thickened. They emerged in another corridor, narrow, unfinished. Wires hung from the ceiling like vines. The lights here were dim and flickering. Then, up ahead, a flicker of movement. A figure stepped into the corridor. David. But something was different. He looked hollow. His expression unreadable. And next to him, a dog identical to Rusty. Perfectly still. But not breathing. Emily's heart stopped. "They cloned him," she whispered. David stepped forward slowly. "Not cloned. Reconstructed. Based on neural memory associations. They built him to keep me compliant. He wasn't real." Emily felt the weight of 7 years crash into her all at once. "But Rusty waited," she said, her voice trembling. "This Rusty. Our Rusty. He remembered you." David's face twisted, like something inside him cracked. And then, the other dog turned its head sharply. Eyes glowing. Mechanical. It lunged. Rusty jumped between them. The two dogs collided in midair. The real and the artificial. Fur and metal. The room erupted in chaos. David shouted, charging toward Emily. "Run!" Marcus grabbed Emily's arm and yanked her back into the shadows as the mechanical dog screeched and sparked, Rusty locked in combat. Emily screamed, trying to fight back, trying to stay. But Marcus held tight. And as the smoke filled the hall, one thing was clear, the final truth was about to surface. And it would either destroy them all, or finally set them free. Emily's blood ran cold. "That sounded like Mom," she whispered. Mr. Harlan blinked in confusion. Your mother? But, Emily, your mother passed away 15 years ago. I know, Emily's. David, come home. Emily's knees buckled. No? That is her. I remember that voice. That exact phrase. She used to say it to David every time he wandered off. Marcus stared at her, pale. Emily. This can't be real. They rounded a sharp bend in the tunnel, and stopped. A door. Newer than anything else down here. Heavy. Steel. A keypad lock. Emily's eyes narrowed. This wasn't in the old station blueprints. Mr. Harlan stepped forward and inspected it. This isn't railway property. This is military grade. Marcus muttered under his breath, what the hell is this? Before anyone could answer, a loud mechanical click echoed through the tunnel. The door slid open slightly, releasing a hiss of pressure. Inside was a narrow, sterile hallway lit with flickering fluorescent lights. Rusty whimpered softly. Emily turned to Marcus. You said David was gone. You said the room was empty. Marcus looked terrified. It was. I swear, Emily. I never saw this door before. I didn't even know this place existed. But Emily was already moving. As they stepped through the strange doorway, everything changed. The hallway had cameras. Hidden speakers. And at the far end, another door, this one already open. Inside was a small room. White walls. No windows. A bed. A monitor. And on the monitor, security footage from the tunnel they'd just walked through. Emily approached the screen. Her hand shook as she touched the controls. A hidden archive opened. Dozens of files. Labeled by date. She clicked the earliest one. The footage began, a dimly lit David Walsh, older than the last time she saw him. Hollow-eyed. Sitting in the same white room, speaking into a camera. I volunteered, he said. I wasn't kidnapped. I wasn't lost. I chose this. For Rusty. For Emily. For everyone. Emily's heart dropped. Another video played. David again, thinner this time, rambling. They said I'd be helping people. That they could use my mind. But they lied. They never let me leave. I think they're recording my memories. Editing them. Maybe even faking them. Emily's eyes widened. What is this? Then, a final file autoplayed. The date was recent. Just 2 days ago. David's voice, now faint and broken. They don't know I still have access to this. If anyone finds this message, know that I'm alive. But I'm not who I used to be. They changed me. The screen went black. Silence filled the room. Emily's breath came in short gasps. She backed away. What is this place? She whispered. Then, the monitor flickered. A woman's face appeared. Not Emily's mother, but someone who looked like her. Same eyes. Same voice. But, artificial. Slightly off. Uncanny. I knew you would come, Emily, the woman said through the screen. David always said you'd find him. You're getting close now. But some doors were never meant to be opened. The screen went black again. This time for good. Mr. Harlan grabbed Emily's arm. We need to leave. Now. But Emily didn't move. She turned to Rusty, who was standing at the far corner of the room, staring at a wall panel. Scratching at it. Whimpering. Emily stepped over, and opened it. Inside, was a photo. Of her. David. And their real mother. A red X was slashed through her mother's face. And underneath it, handwritten in shaky ink, she's not who you think she is. Emily stared at the photo. Her own face, David's, and the woman she had mourned for over a decade, now marked with a red X. Her stomach twisted. Mr. Harlan was already moving. We're not safe here. Rusty barked, sharp, insistent, his paw still scratching at the open wall panel. Something behind it clicked. A mechanism released. Another compartment opened. Inside was a worn ID badge. Project Eden, subject number 12, Dr. Marion Walsh. Emily froze. That's Mom's name. Marcus leaned closer. Wait, subject. Not staff. Emily's mind reeled. Her mother hadn't been a scientist. She was a subject. A test case. A patient. I don't understand, she whispered. What was this place doing to her? To David? Rusty suddenly growled, louder than before. The hallway lights outside the room began to flicker violently. Then, heavy mechanical footsteps echoed from the tunnel they had entered through. We need to go. Now. Mr. Harlan urged. Emily grabbed the photo, the badge, and David's journal. They sprinted out of the cold room, back into the main corridor. But now, doors were closing behind them one by one. Like the facility was sealing itself. As they ran, the speakers crackled to life. You were never supposed to find this, said the woman's voice again. David wanted to protect you from the truth. The light surged, casting everything in harsh white flashes. Then, suddenly, David's voice. Emily, if you're hearing this, they've let you in too far. They stopped. The voice wasn't from the speakers. It was ahead of them. In the tunnel. Real. Present. And then he stepped into view. David. Gaunt. Pale. Eyes sunken but alert. He stood barefoot in a simple hospital-like uniform, staring at them with tears pooling in his eyes. Emily, he said again, his voice shaking. She gasped, stepping forward. David? You're alive? He nodded, slowly. They let me out, only because they wanted you to come. Emily froze. What does that mean? David glanced at Rusty, who hadn't stopped growling, and then at Mr. Harlan. They weren't experimenting on me. They were training me. Breaking me down to build something loyal. Obedient. They called it emotional pattern sequencing, manipulating memories to reshape who I was. Marcus stepped forward. But why? Why keep you alive this long? David's voice was hollow. Because I resisted. I remembered who I was. I remembered Emily. That kept me human. But they couldn't let that go. So they started again, with someone else. He looked directly at Emily. You. Emily took a step back. What are you talking about? David looked heartbroken. You don't remember. But before you found Rusty, you were here. 2 years ago. Voluntarily. Trying to find me. You offered yourself in exchange for information about Mom. And they took your memories. Wiped them. Sent you back. Emily's face paled. No, that's not true. I would remember that. You didn't adopt Rusty, David continued, eyes wet. You already knew him. He waited because he was trained to guide you back here. Emily fell to her knees, overwhelmed. Marcus reached for her, but she held up a hand. It's all lies. It has to be. David knelt in front of her. I wish it was. Behind them, the tunnel light surged one final time, and then went dark. Emergency red lights flickered on. The door behind them slammed shut. A siren blared. David looked back. They are coming. They'll erase this again. They'll send you back, clean. And I'll be gone. Emily grabbed his hands. No? We're leaving. All of us. David smiled sadly. They've already rewritten me too many times. If I leave, I won't survive. But you can. He pulled something from his pocket. A small drive. Take it. It's everything. The experiments. The truth about Mom. About you. If you expose it, they'll have to shut it down. Emily was sobbing now. I just got you back. Rusty whined and rested his head on David's knee. David stroked his fur. You never lost me. Not really. Then, as the sirens grew louder, David gently pushed Emily toward the emergency exit that had just unlocked at the far wall. Go. Please. Emily turned once more. I love you. David smiled. I know. And with that, she ran. As the door closed behind her, she looked through the small glass window one last time. David knelt beside Rusty. And both of them disappeared into the red-lit shadows. Emily never forgot the sound of that final door locking behind her. It echoed like a permanent goodbye. She stood in a narrow emergency tunnel, the data drive clenched tight in her fist, her cheeks still wet with tears. Behind that steel door, her brother David, once thought dead, had chosen to stay behind. Chosen to protect her one last time. Marcus and Mr. Harlan caught up, panting, shaken, but silent. No one had the strength to speak yet. Only Rusty's absence filled the air like a ghost. He had stayed with David, loyal until the very end. A week later, Emily sat across from a quiet journalist in a small, unassuming office. She handed over the data drive. Are you sure you want to do this? The woman asked. Emily nodded. People need to know. About what they did. About the memory wipes. The experiments. My mother, my brother. All of it. The journalist hesitated. This could bring down people with power. It's dangerous. Emily looked her straight in the eyes. I'm not afraid of them anymore. It took 2 months, but when the truth finally broke, it shook everything. The Project, Eden, was real. Hidden beneath layers of fake corporations and off-the-books budgets. The footage of David, the memory manipulation experiments, even the fabricated version of their mother's voice, it all pointed to a secret program buried for years beneath the city. The story exploded across every major news outlet. Investigations were launched. Arrests made. Facilities seized. And Rusty's name? It became a symbol. A monument was even built, the dog who waited, standing in the city center, in honor of a creature whose loyalty led to a truth the world almost never uncovered. But for Emily, the hardest part wasn't the exposure. It was learning how to live after. She moved out of the city. Somewhere quiet. Clean air. No concrete ceilings. No sirens. Marcus stayed close. He had lost a lot too, his past wrapped up in that facility more than he ever wanted to admit. But he never left her side. Mr. Harlan passed away peacefully a year later. Before he died, he handed Emily a package, an old cassette player and a note. I knew Marion better than anyone, it read. She wasn't just a subject. She was the one who tried to stop all of it. They erased her story, but I saved one tape. Emily played it that night. Her mother's real voice, calm, kind, and defiant, filled the quiet room. If my children ever hear this, know that I loved you more than anything. I fought until the very end. Not for me, but for who you could become. Emily cried for a long time. But this time, it wasn't just sadness. It was closure. She rebuilt slowly. Started a foundation for survivors of psychological experiments. Helped others rediscover themselves, like she had to. Her story, painful as it was, became a source of strength for others. And sometimes, when the wind howled through the trees at night, she swore she could still hear Rusty's bark in the distance, faithful, alert, watching over her like always. The dog who waited didn't wait in vain. He waited for a future where the truth finally had a voice. He waited so that someone, she, would finally come home.